Before we start, a little bit about me. My name is Jamil Mina. I work for a large financial institution for about 24 years. I was involved in a lot of activities from application development, data center automation, data center governance, around continuous delivery, automation, container orchestration. And then in 2018, I joined Red Hat, and now I'm in the role of chief architect. And at Red Hat, we have a vertical that focuses only on financial services, and I am part of that vertical. I'm wearing my jacket. It's not a fashion statement. It's pretty cold up here, and I'm trying to stay warm. The balance of the temperature in the house is not working well. And in advance, one of the things I want to apologize for is I have 2 dogs, and my 2 dogs might feel the need to protect the house today and start barking. So if they do, my apologies in advance. One of the things I like to cover, and this is a bit of an older stat, is the cost of compliance for the financial industry worldwide is high, and is still high, to the point when I looked at the data, it was about 10% of the operating budget of a particular financial institution, and that's a huge carry to cost to carry because of the legal fees, people to hire, experts to bring on board, new regulations. And as we know today, we live in a very competitive marketplace. In that very competitive marketplace, what's challenging is people are very hard to find. So we have to deal with this compliance issue, but we still have the issue of finding the right people to help us to do it. So when we speak with our customers, majority of our customers talk about automation to help resolve the security, compliance, resiliency issues. This morning I was having a meeting with the customer. We're talking about new regulation, and this is based in Canada from an OSFI, Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, was talking about regulation for cloud resiliency. So how do you implement cloud resiliency? And automation plays a big role into that resiliency story as well. So everybody wants, let's automate everything, let's reduce manual effort. This is, in a way, it helps financial institutions cope with the amount of changes that are needed to, or amount of work that is needed to remediate any compliance security issues. And the benefit of automation is it helps reduce the bottom line cost, improve the quality, and minimize the amount of people that we need to go hire to bring in to be able to do the work, like the IT security people that are very specialized, very skilled, and very hard to find. Security, in a way, it's not a one-time event. Anyone that has been working in the industry for as long as I've been working, remember the days when info security was a linear activity. The way we would start with that linear activities is we start an application development project. We bring them for information security officer. They will give us the requirements. We build in the requirements into the application and into the system. We do the penetration testing when the application gets into production. We'll see some defects with the application in production. They write up the defects. We are committed to fix them within 2 to 3 months, and then we don't speak to the information security officer for another 5 years. But with today, in today's world and the dynamics that's happening with all the security attacks, we hear about them on a daily basis. There was a Ukraine cybersecurity attack recently last week. There was one as well that happened not too long ago, where President Biden has to sign an executive order to talk about the SBOM software bill of material, to make it the requirement to be able to trace back where the software exposure is, or where the software is coming, to know that it doesn't have any exposure in it. So, therefore, automation comes into that circle. We will continue to do it continuous in terms of that security aspect of it. So to support the argument, I monitor, or I look into what the Cloud Security Alliance is doing, and the Cloud Security Alliance has a framework called Start Continuous. It's a brand new framework that came up in 2021. It has about 34 audit metrics, and what they're talking about the 34 audit metrics as helping organization with the requirements to go from that 1-year event for audit to that continuous auditing capabilities, and to be able to codify these audit metrics for these activities. So I looked at those 34 audit metrics, trying to wrap my hands around them. I summarized them to about 7 that I have on the slide here on the right-hand side. They go from authorization and access control to vulnerability management, and the themes kind of align into the product sets that we have with Red Hat. So I do have a presentation that goes for about over an hour to talk about how we deal with each one of these sevens within our product sets. But I'm not going to go down that road because that's too long of a presentations for this discussion. Instead, I'm going to focus on 3 elements, which is how to bake security into the DevOps process, how to look at as code, everything in terms of infrastructure security compliance as code, and then how do you keep on top of the continuous monitoring. And as I transition between the sections of the presentation, I will talk about this is a transition point. Okay. So when I remember back in 2016, 2017, when we started with the journey, the DevOps journey, and we wanted to implement the DevOps journey at a large financial institution. And one of the big aspects that we focused on at the time was the developer experience. We talked about how do we take code and deliver it faster to the to production. At the time, we were not talking about the cloud yet. How do you take code, deliver it faster to production? And how do we increase the velocity of application delivery? But we never really focused on the operation side of it at the time. It was more dev no ops story rather than DevOps story. It was how to shift left more of the responsibilities towards that developer. Operations have the same need. Everything as code, to manage the deployment and the management of the infrastructure. You need to be able to write it as code, deliver it through the pipeline, go through the same testing rigor as the application being delivered, to go to the production, and then to monitor that as well at the end, to monitor the stack both from infrastructure and application level. So this is an example of an infrastructure capability as code. You know, how to do the vulnerability scanning based on a clean image when it comes that clean image, how to harden it, enforce the compliance, and automate the patching. And from a Red Hat perspective, we have that capability built into the product as we ship these products out. And we're going to explore a little bit more how we do that. With containers, is a similar story. As we know, when containers emerged, they they provided that ease of capabilities to deliver applications. But we first emerged with containers, we needed a way to orchestrate them. Kubernetes emerged as the best way to manage containers. So now we have this ability within that provides us that capability that now the three themes on top, where we can have control the application in an immutable mode, build the security within it, then and that shifted left, we shift that left towards the developers. Then in the middle, we have the operations or the platform team that can manage that platform capability. And then we have the detect and response capability with monitoring and managing the vulnerabilities as we go. So that created that whole affinity towards the delivery of applications with Kubernetes, which made it easier to manage that DevSecOps pipeline. So how does Red Hat do it? So I tried to take the concepts from product team from Red Hat perspective around compliance as code, and I broke it down into the 3 lines of defense. The 3 lines of defense, OCC has them. Every regulator talks about the 3 lines of defense. The first line of defense is your engineering and operations. These are the people that are responsible for protecting the assets that are being built and the assets that are running in production. The second line of defense is your teams, such as info security, that is defining the standards. They're picking a standard so they can measure the organization against and provide the standard to the engineering team to build systems against that standard. And the third line of defense is the audit team that is responsible for ensuring that everyone else is doing their job and monitoring the system around it. So from a Red Hat perspective, take Linux as an example, or OpenShift, which is the container platform. It will come with a certain standard that you can apply against the platform. In this example here, we have NIST 800-53 from a controls perspective. And software to apply the compliance as code with ASCAP and Ansible. Ansible is an automation tool. ASCAP is NIST compliant scanning tool that comes with every system that we ship from the organization. Then it provides the rest of the organization with the ability to apply the controls, monitor the controls, and view those controls through reports and dashboards. How does ASCAP work? ASCAP as an engine, it has 2 streams of data that comes into it. From the left-hand side, it comes with the standards such as NIST 853, and it scans the assets based on that standard. And then you've got the CVE database that goes through the Red Hat security team that feeds into the Red Hat CVE feed into the open ASCAP capability to scan the assets and produce the vulnerability report and the compliance reports for the administrators or the SREs to be able to look at the report and identify the vulnerabilities. We talked a little bit earlier about resource and people availabilities, and it's the hottest market today in terms of skills requirements. In the news this morning, for example, one of the local banks is looking to hire 2,000 IT professionals. That's a lot of people in a market, in a city, to be able to bring people into the organization. So automation is basically what's going to help us to scale as organizations. And when it comes to IT automations, we need the ability to have an automation platform that will work the same across the whole stack, has the same common language across the whole stack, both on premises, in the cloud, being Google, Azure, AWS, or your legacy system that's running in the data center and goes from the infrastructure all the way to the application layer, and help manage across that stack. This is where we introduced the concept, the product Ansible, the automation tool that is provide that simple language to enable that delivery of automation across the whole stack. I'm not going to talk about Ansible as a whole, as the whole product. I'm going to focus just on the Ansible security automation piece of it in context of this presentation and this meeting. Ansible security automation, we have a lot of partnership with the different security groups that security suppliers that we work with, where we have Ansible playbooks that are curated and supported that will work with the different appliances, security appliances for the organization. These playbooks are supported by Red Hat, and your administrators can create their own the playbooks as well, and the roles. I'm not sure if people are familiar what the role. A role is almost like a subroutine within a playbook to be able to manage these appliances. When managing these appliances, it provides the security analysts with the ability to investigate. For example, here the example we're using, if you're looking to increase the level of verbosity of the logging on your appliance, instead of having the need to log into each appliance separately to increase that verbosity, you can do it through code, through Ansible, and you can do it against a number of appliances at the same time to be able to view increase the logs, the verbosity of the logs. Threat hunting around, figuring out what automating the alerts, doing the correlation, or checking to see if someone is changing the signatures on these appliances. The third one is the incident response capability, where now you can create policies to automatically blacklist devices, for example, if they need to be blacklisted. And all of that comes from out of the box, supported by Red Hat, to create some similar pipeline for security capabilities. And this pipeline, I'm focusing a little bit more around the GitOps capabilities, where now everything becomes as code. Similar to how we manage the application delivery, we can manage that through DevSecOps pipeline capability to deliver as code both the application and the infrastructure capabilities, and monitor through security and manage across multiple layers. And I just noticed here that I shifted towards Kubernetes without making transition to it. I do apologize for that. This slide is focused a lot around the Kubernetes stack. Okay, so I'm going back to Ansible. My apologies for mixing up my slides here a little bit. So from an Ansible perspective, where I was going with this slide is, I mentioned that we have a lot of playbooks and a lot of roles that we provide from a Red Hat perspective. And there is something called Ansible Galaxy. With Ansible Galaxy, basically it's the community provide playbooks and roles that can be consumed by different organizations. These are not supported by Red Hat, as they're not created by Red Hat. But what we see in here in that repository, we see different standards that have been contributed by the community that can be consumed by the users of Ansible. So going back to Kubernetes, Kubernetes is an introduction a little bit about Kubernetes, because I always find that confusion when it comes to Kubernetes stacks. Kubernetes is an orchestrator. It's an orchestrator that is really, really good at managing and orchestrating containers. On its own, is not a platform. In order to turn Kubernetes as a platform, it requires set of technologies such as an operating system, such as an SDN, such as an ingress router. And here what we're talking about is compliance operators. The compliance operators, they use ASCAP that we mentioned earlier, and desired state where the administrator of the platform wants to have that platform is at. And compliance profiles such as NIST 853. So the compliance operators, they operate like a loop. They're always monitoring the configuration of your platform, in this case, an OpenShift platform, to any deviation from the standard and remediate it in an automated fashion. And that comes in built in into the platform. You can either add it manually on top of do-it-yourself Kubernetes, or you can get OpenShift and provides you that capability. That concept itself, we take it and we spread it across multiple clusters. So when I first started with Kubernetes, the idea was I could have one Kubernetes platform for all of my organization with the multi-tenancy capabilities of that Kubernetes platform. But then I ran into trouble. Capital market and the retail bank have different business cycles. Therefore, when I needed to do an upgrade on that Kubernetes platform where I had two different businesses with two different business cycles, I couldn't upgrade at the speed that I needed to upgrade the platform or maintain the platform or patch the platform, depending on the day. For example, the wealth organization doesn't want any changes to happen during the 401k season, while the capital market organization has different trading frequency than the wealth organization. So we changed our strategy to go from one big cluster for the whole enterprise to a lot smaller clusters that could be running on premises or could be running on public clouds. And we needed the same mechanism to be able to enforce the same policies across all these Kubernetes platforms. Therefore, having a management platform, and in this case, I'm talking about Advanced Cluster Manager, to be able to allow me to centrally enforce all policies, to be able to see deviations across the clusters within all my clouds, to have the standard compliance rules coming in with it, and be able to improve my visibility into the posture of the cluster. So that brings me into now the monitoring capabilities. So I'm changing section to go to the monitoring capabilities. And the monitoring capabilities, so we talked about on the right-hand side, we talked about Ansible automation. So I'm not going to jump too much into Ansible automation, but I'm going to go into Satellite. Satellite provides me the ability to see all of my estate. What do I have as servers in the cloud or on my private cloud, in the public cloud or on my private cloud, to be able to provision from standard images, to be able to patch, see the patching posture or the vulnerability posture on my estate within my own data center. Insight is a little bit different, because Insight, the way it works, the customers that sign up for Insight, they provide a set of information to Red Hat, where Red Hat would correlate any future impact based on the available estate at the customer site, and feeds that data into Ansible and Satellite for the customer to take actions to prevent any issues from happening in the future based on future vulnerabilities or errors in configurations and so forth, based on what it learns from all its customers that are using Insight. With the monitoring capability, going back to Kubernetes, is one of the things that we need to do is to be able to view and manage our security posture across the organization. And Red Hat Advanced Cluster Security for Kubernetes, it allows us to do SAST and DAST, static analysis and dynamic analysis for security postures on single cluster across all clusters across different flavors of Kubernetes, and provides the single API and policy engine across all the stack and the development cycle as well. So in this slide, one of the things that we provide as well, we provide you with an ability through our cloud services, cloud.redhat.com, to be able to go and take a look at, have a centralized view of all your capabilities, your subscriptions, your vulnerabilities, how to manage your estate across all of your cloud as well, from a single dashboard, from a managed services capabilities. Finally, we're talking about our partners. We have large partner system here. I'm listing only the partners around the security space, but we have partners in terms of financial services products. So this week last week we made an announcement as being partner of the year with Temenos, for example. Red Hat has a big partner list, and we have a big focus on ensuring that our partners are successful with the product sets that we provide. To wrap it all together, bringing us back to that framework that we started with at the beginning: design, build, run, automate, and adapt. Red Hat provides products across all that cycle to help you be successful with your organization, with your delivery. So from the governance requirements for automating controls around your platform. So if we take something like CIS benchmark, or we take something like PCI DSS, and you want to apply it to your platform, we provide templates that comes with our products, such as Advanced Cluster Manager or OpenShift, that you can automate that delivery for that platform. When it comes to VMs, we have a similar product with ASCAP.
Hey, Jamil. Yeah, thank you so much. I take it you're done. The presentation's done, right?
Yes, I'm done.
Yeah, good. Well, we do have some questions from the audience, so I can kind of read those off to you, and maybe you can help out. There's a question here around automating GRCs. How would you address that?
So governance, risk, and compliance. So I think in one of the slides I addressed the 3 lines of defense, where you need to be able to define your standards first, what standard you're following. If you are in the credit card business, the standard is PCI DSS, and PCI DSS is very difficult to implement as a requirement, as a standard, for example. So from a Red Hat, from a product perspective, we provide you with out-of-the-box template or configuration capabilities to configure your system for that PCI DSS capability. Then when it comes with the governance capability, the governance capabilities around it, is you need to be able to provide with your auditors with an independent capabilities to see the security posture of your platform. And that's when it comes with certain products such as ASCAP, such as Ansible, such as ACM, to have that view to be able to audit against the standard and identify the security postures and to be able to issue the defects to manage the risk, inherent risk from deviation from these standards. So all our products come with certain level of capabilities, from applying compliance rule and providing third-party access to your auditors to be able to visualize the risk, inherent risk within your system.
Thank you for that. There is a message here on this, kind of piggybacking on that. Automating GRC for someone of his size makes all kinds of effort sense, but can't find a way to have it make financial sense. Do you have any advice or tips there?
So I'm gonna confess, I come from a large financial institution, and I tend to solve at the large level, and I know is the cost of compliance for large companies could be very expensive, that to the point like large financial institution could lose its charter to operate if it doesn't comply with the regulators. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a regulator that is going after you and an external regulator for your compliance and security, then you got to figure out how to turn this into strategic delivery. And that strategic delivery is to differentiate yourself from the people you're competing against to be able to generate more revenue. But the challenge becomes is having your line of business in a smaller organization might be easier to do than in a large financial institution, to carry in their P&L a factor of that security that provides them an advantage that they can generate more revenue with it. If you can prove to them that they can generate more money, it gives you more funding to be able to apply what you need to apply, because with the promise of additional revenue, it makes the cost negligible compared to the revenue that it could generate. Okay.
Yeah, he's saying these $1 to $2 billion community bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question here was, how can AI assist with automating GRC without creating new types of risks?
Okay. So no, this is a great question around AI, because it's one of not my pet peeve. It's one of the things that I always debate with my colleagues and ex-colleagues. So we provide the data science capability on OpenShift Data Science Platform, which is a hosted service. And we talk about the AI ops capabilities, because once we get into GRCs, we're talking about the operational side of the organization. So if you take a large organization with millions of devices, thousands of devices, millions of events on a daily basis, I do not believe there is an AI system out of the box that can help you generate your GRCs without having a team of data scientists and machine learning engineers to produce models that are contextual to your organization, that can understand your type of events to be able to remediate against it. So I take an example, and I'm going to take an operational example, not a security example in this case. If I have a database that, I'm going to pick Oracle database that fails at 9 a.m. in the morning, there is a severity and impact. So is that a big severity? It might be, depending if that database is serving a batch system that's supposed to be operating at midnight versus an online system that it's transacting trade for 9:30 opening hour of the trading market. So I don't know the impact. So unless you teach the system about the impact based on the system, the AI ops system will treat everything the same. So this is where you need your own team to create these models, and that tend to be the expensive part of it, is how to justify to your business to dedicate time from your machine learning and artificial intelligence teams for operational aspects, not for generating additional revenue, such as high frequency trading or something else.
Thank you. Yeah, doesn't seem like it's a very easy question. I'm seeing the comments in the chat that says, yeah, it's almost impossible to answer, I guess. What about compliance rules? What does Red Hat do for that?
So from compliance rules perspective, so we build in. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a set of libraries from compliance rules perspective because we work with the federal government, so we have to comply with all the FedRAMP capabilities from a government perspective, but as well we have the standards that we integrate into our products for the different industries, such as banking, such as health, HIPAA, and so forth. So all our products comes with the rule capabilities as well. We work with CIS benchmark. I see the matrix sometimes, and I look at the various implementations of these matrices against the products, and we have product teams that are specialized into integrating these capabilities into the product systems.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What about organizations that are looking just struggling with the basics? We have a comment in the chat. Even large organizations that struggle with the basics. What are some of your ideas or thoughts behind that?
Basics of
GRC, let's say.
GRC. So I always go from the approach of keeping it simple, really use the out-of-the-box capabilities of the systems, and keep the number of your compliance requirements to a manageable number that is automatable. And that's not always easy, because the compliance rules have been written in a time where everything was done manually. So they express themselves in a way that cannot be automated. So figuring out a way of how to get to a point where your compliance rules can become requirements for your automation project, I think the automation tools that could help in accelerating and simplifying the security compliance capabilities.
Thank you.